So the thing I wanted to talk about today is information systems, but specifically CRM and how that has been evolving over the recent years, and perhaps looking back over the last 10 or 15 years of the changes that have taken place, because I think they are particularly relevant for organisations in the not-for-profit sector, the organisations that we find ourselves working with. And the analogy that I was thinking of drawing is with other initiatives and changes that have become more commoditised over time, more normalised. And just looking out the window here, I can see a plane going past, and I'm thinking about how commercial flight is just something that we take for granted in ways that would have been inconceivable and magical just 100 years ago. And seeing CRM in that way, I think, is helpful in terms of the change of emphasis and the way organisations need to think about their contact relationship management systems now that we're well into the 21st century and expectations have changed. So just in the same way as it would have been just a complete mystery to someone 100 years ago, even about how these things stay in the air virtually, never mind the concept of being able to use them routinely. So I think increasingly today people are taking much more for granted that information is going to be available to them in whatever form they want it, whether it's on their mobile phone or their laptop or in their PC at the office. And what that reflects, I think, is two important things. First of all, the assumption that there is in society generally that technology will work. Now that may well be a flawed assumption, but it's nevertheless the assumption that's there, and therefore the expectation that supporters, members and so on who have relationships with organisations in the sector, the assumption is that their technology will work in the way that they want to get at the information they need, whether that's information about what the organisation is doing with their donations or some of their membership entitlements and events that may be going on that they want to take part in. So being able to meet that expectation, I think, is one of the things that needs to guide organisations today in looking at the fitness for purpose of their current systems and the potential for change. The second thing, though, is a little bit more subtle and also powerful, I think, which is that the centre of gravity has moved away from the technologists in organisations and much more out to the users of information in terms of who's setting the agenda and what the requirements are. So going back, perhaps not 100 years, but maybe going back 10 or 15 years to when people were talking about CRM in those days, in the late 80s and 90s, there was no doubt, I think, that CRM was about computers, and it was probably a conversation that could only happen either inside an IT department or at least with an IT person involved somewhere. And that's been true, I think, probably certainly until about 10 years ago, but in the last 5 or 6 years that conversation has moved away from IT departments and is happening within organisations in marketing, communications, fundraising, finance and other areas. And it's moving outside the organisation entirely in terms of who's setting the agenda now, I think, in so far as the people that organisations want to engage with and whose support and other forms of activity CRM systems are trying to keep track of. Those are the people who are setting the expectations very explicitly on what they want from their systems. And so organisations that are going to be successful are going to have to meet that expectation outside their, being set outside their organisation, not within it, if you see what I mean. So actually linking into all of the other trending changes around social networking and expectations that people have increasingly to be able to do everything perhaps through their TVs in their sitting rooms or be able to carry it around in their pocket. That's what organizations need to have in mind. And so older models of CRM around pushing information out from some central repository, those are less and less valid today. And if that's the kind of thinking around CRM that's happening in organizations, that needs to change as well as the underlying supporting system. So that's what I was thinking about today, about how CRM particularly, along with other information systems and technology, is increasingly a kind of commodity that people have expectations about, and that it's those expectations which are driving the specification of projects and systems implementation much more than technical design by technocrats. A good thing, I think, but a change and something that we're going to have to get to grips with.